The possibility of a special session of the legislature looms large as the House and Senate failed to pass bills to fill the budget hole of at least $1.3 billion. A key to coming up with new money is an increase in the cigarette tax of $1.50 a pack. The week began with prospects for the tax improving, but by the end of the week, the tax was rejected in the House, caught up in a political tug-of-war.
The cigarette tax faced its first hurdle on Monday when it came up before the House Joint Committee on Appropriations and Budget. Representative Doug Cox told the panel money raised by the tax would go into a health care revolving fund with a priority of stabilizing provider care rates and or implementing a premium assistance plan.
It can be used for any agency that receives matching federal dollars through Title 19 or Title 21. Those agencies are Department of Human Services. I think that's important. Lord knows they need some money if it's available. The Health Care Authority, the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, and the Health Department.
Cox maintained that other sources of revenue were potentially available to help fill a budget hole of at least $1.3 billion, but asked lawmakers to move the tobacco tax forward to prevent catastrophic cuts to health care in Oklahoma.
It's entirely possible that we leave here with a shortfall, in which case there's going to be draconian cuts, and that's when you're going to have to go home and talk to your constituents about why they lost their job at the school, why they lost their job at the nursing home, why the local hospital shut down.
Representative Richard Morissette countered that if it's about getting money for health care, Oklahoma should agree to expand Medicaid and accept about $900 million in federal matching money. The House panel ultimately okayed the bill, sending it to the Senate Joint Committee on Appropriations and Budget, where it ran into more resistance. Senator Kay Floyd questioned Senate Finance Committee Chairman Mike Mazzei about whether the legislature should roll back the income tax cut, which took effect earlier this year, rather than increasing taxes on cigarettes.
You stated a second ago, when the question was dealing with any additional big-ticket items, that if we were to delay the income tax cut, we could have $188 million back on the table. Is there any reason that we're not looking at that now?
Senator Floyd, I've suggested that on numerous occasions, both publicly and privately, and that baton has not been picked up.
A bigger problem arose with a change in the bill's language, which stripped out a Medicaid rebalancing plan proposed by the Oklahoma Health Care Authority. Senate Appropriations Chair Clark Jolly was quizzed by Senator Brian Crane about the implications of that change.
I know there's been some discussion out here about using the cigarette tax for the Medicaid Rebalancing Act. This language seems to show that we're going to use this to stabilize current Medicaid reimbursement rates. Can you elaborate on is this either or both? What will this money be used for?
Could be utilized at mental health to restore private providers that were taken off that were not on Sooner Care. Could be utilized in Medicaid to prevent a 25% rate reduction on top of the rates which have already been done. All of that is possible with these revenues without Medicaid rebalancing even being on the table.
The Senate panel approved the measure, but the change meant House Democrats were no longer on board with the plan to raise cigarette taxes without also expanding the state's Medicaid program. Bob Sands has more on that part of the story.